Any toothpicks? any lashes glue?
Yeah.
Are we live?
We need some super glue. We
Oh,
are
we're
live.
live. We are live.
Good morning.
Buenos dias.
Look, I was gonna grab my mug. Hey everyone,
I
welcome.
need a little creamer.
welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce. It is beautiful out there. It's a great morning. We have a full house. Of course, it's not always full without Mr. Cano, so we are expecting him to walk in any minute, and he better cheer up.
I don't see him.
Manolo? Oh my God, we got him dragging in.
Oh my God, look what the
It
cat
seems like he has
dragged in.
not slept.
Alberto, how do you say drag in?
Have you slept since Super Bowl?
It was a long night.
It was a long night.
It was like there was so much going on.
Pepe has you down, right?
And then I watched the movie Harriet. Instead of watching State of the Union, I watched the movie Harriet, and then I watched
Probably more entertaining.
State of the Union afterwards.
So you recorded the State of the Union and you
Yeah.
watched. Okay,
So you
that's
can fast
priorities.
forward through it, right?
It's crazy.
One wide
It's just, well, I mean, he's going to say the same things over and over again, like, you know, amazing, greatest. I mean, he's going to pat his. I wonder how bad he is.
Our country is at the best level of economy. Yeah, Macy's is closing 123 stores
I wonder
in
how
the
many
next 3
bruises he
years.
gets from patting himself on the back so much. I mean, like, how does he do that? I mean, like, it's amazing
That's
how awesome
personal.
he really is, according to him.
What is it called? Personal
you gotta-
self-esteem.
Yeah. You got to be a serious political junkie to subject yourself to the abuse of the State of the Union address.
I can't watch him.
It was just bizarre from when it started off with him not shaking her hand.
Oh, God. Not shaking, not only hers. While he was walking in,
Yeah.
you know.
It was so petty. Anywho, I'm a little tired today, so I need all y'all's energy. And look, we got a baby.
I'm here to give you energy,
Where did that
Cano.
come from?
We're giving him away. It's buy one, get one. We got guns, we have knives, we have babies.
Oh, and I'm calling Child Protective Services here.
Why are you within 100 yards of a child?
That's funny.
Predator.
Well, he did walk into that one. He did walk into that one.
I am a child. Don't you forget it.
So,
That is true.
welcome everyone to Coffee and Pandusa. Let's turn off the music.
There was music
Alexa,
playing?
stop. Alexa.
The dudes are sleepy today. You guys are just
Alexa.
like,
I know.
Pipe down, Alexa.
I mean, Jeff is still wearing his pajamas. I mean, Cano looks like he just rolled out of the rack. I mean, it's like, y'all, well, I guess it's good because we do have Wired and Tired today, and y'all
It's
definitely
going to be a
tired
long
quotient.
day.
I hear that.
This is the pajama episode.
We should make one of those pajamas.
Oh, I've got a unicorn onesie. We got to do it.
Yes, I gotta get me a onesie. I want one.
I'm so down to do a pajama episode. We got to do. Maybe we'll do it the week before the primary.
All right, excellent. Okay, well that's next week. So, well,
Get control of the show, host.
welcome to Coffee and Pandusa. Today is February the 5th. I want to welcome everyone. The North Carolina primaries start a week from tomorrow.
Yes.
And so we want to welcome everyone for joining us, and for those watching us on Facebook Live, but also those who are going to watch us later on YouTube and also on Facebook as well. Thank everyone for joining us. Today is a rainy day. It's one of those days you think, oh God,
It's a misty day.
I could have slept today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
think two of you are.
yes, I think we are. So let's go around. Let's start off. We started late. I do apologize. Where's Waldo's shirt here?
I couldn't find Waldo, so I had to dress as
You
Waldo.
took his shirt.
Yeah. Let's start from our right because you're always right. And all right.
Hello, Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. We do have our Now meeting tonight, so I'm wearing my Now pin, my Now shirt, and then also, of course, my Tera Long little button. And I'm a huge fan. I work on her team. If you want to have humanity on the board of county commissioners and an advocate for all, you need to vote for her.
That's right.
Vote early, vote often.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Here's, what is it, Mama Ruth?
Mama Ruth.
For the show. Ruth Perez, and I'm community advocate. I'm here this morning with my little addition in our family, my little granddaughter, Jaylani. Yay. And I forgot my buttons. I'm sorry, but I do, and y'all know, I do support Tera Long. I do support mostly of my commissioners here in Charlotte. And my main one is Gun Sense. That's my main one. So, next.
My name is Jeff Scott, El Hombre del Pueblo.
He woke up.
And I am...
On cue.
I am wearing my
Waldo shirt.
no button, but I'm holding my WikiLeaks cup, and I'm really going to try my best to stay awake today because it is a sleepy day. Tera.
Hi, I'm Tera Long. I'm candidate for County Commission at Large.
Woo!
Thank you. I feel like the next few weeks I will be working the polls, and so I feel like this might be the last presentation that we do together until after the election because we have to be, and so I came to beg for your vote February 13th through March 3rd, and I hope to see you at the polls. And I just want to thank everybody here for the opportunities that they have brought before me. You can't win an election without incredible friends.
Yes.
So anybody who wins an election is because they have incredible friends.
Well, thank you, Tera. And I'm Christian Cano. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm a little tired because I watched the State of the Union last night, which was just
Exhausting.
It's just exhausting. Yeah, I mean, I'm just so exhausted by all that stuff. But it made headlines because Trump didn't shake people's hands, and then at the very end, Speaker Pelosi ripped up the speech. And
I love those memes right now.
well,
I love her. I mean, whether you like her politics or not, I mean, you gotta love
You have
the
to have
fact that
enough
she
guts.
stands her ground.
Yes.
I mean, between the golf clap that she does
Yeah.
when she gave shade that time, and just I love that she brings the bravado that so much times in the political narrative, especially in national politics, where they say well, women aren't tough enough, or they're not this, or they're not that. And Nancy Pelosi, if she does one thing, if she has one thing in her legacy, will be that she stood her ground in a very scary era in American history.
Well, apparently it has really upset
Love it.
all of the Trumpsters because they have been posting on social media that she's committed a crime. Oh, you okay, baby?
Yes.
That you know, that it was uncouth and this. So there she goes.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's really shaking people.
You have not traveled to Japan or China.
She looks like a little girl. Look at that's a cute outfit. Anywho, so we're not going to talk about State of the Union. We're going to talk about.
We're not going to talk about State of the Union.
Oh, do you want to talk about State of the Union?
We're not going to talk about
We can talk about whatever you want.
I didn't watch it.
But before, okay, well, you.
Oh!
Not gonna be tough to talk about.
Let's salute to Coffee and Producers. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching.
And today we have something special. So I did not go to Manolo's Bakery again yesterday, but he is our sponsor for Dulce. So please remember to support Manolo's Bakery in Central Avenue for your pan dulce, your tres leche cakes, your
Tamales.
Woo.
your all kinds of stuff there, but also to order your cakes,
Your
for
birthday cakes.
your birthday cakes, but your cakes for Mardi Gras, the Queen's Cake or
Oh,
King's
yeah.
Cake, whatever it's called. Order those as well.
Yep.
So.
Easter's coming
I
up.
was,
Oh, yeah.
I was at a grocery store and I found these. These are conchas, which is the pan dulce, the sweetbread that I like. That's what I grew up with. They're more Mexican style, right?
Yeah.
So I found these, and this company Bimbo, they are and I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Bimbo is good.
Bimbo, okay,
Yeah.
all right. They are one of the largest
Bimbo?
bakery companies
Yeah.
in Mexico, but they have bought.
In the history.
Yes, and they have been buying up a bunch of American bread companies. In Texas, they bought Mrs. Bear's bread. They are tortillas are actually the #1 selling item over bread, and so they are a huge conglomerate, and they've been buying up a bunch of companies. And we were going to talk about this, but we decided not to. But it's very interesting. Over the last 10 years, Mexican companies that are based in Mexico, have been buying American companies, and their #3 market is the Charlotte region. They have been buying a bunch of manufacturing companies out in the Huntersville area, in this area, And so I just find it very interesting that Mexican dollars, Mexican companies are employing more Americans in some regions than American companies. And yet we still have a president who...
And that's been going on a lot longer than 10 years.
Yes, it has.
I've lived twice in Northwest Texas, or what they call West Texas. And one of the biggest employers there is Azteca, and it's a Mexican company. They've been around a long time. They've been a presence in Plainview, Texas forever. They've got this huge masa manufacturing processing plant, and they're an incredible employer. They're very good to their employees. The exchange, growing up in San Antonio and seeing the exchange between Mexico and the United States is incredible and very dynamic, and we've always had a great partnership with Mexico. It's a myth that Mexico is this third world, undeveloped, crappy country. I'm going, oh, no. Their resort cities are some of the best resort destinations in the entire planet. Their hospitality industry is top notch. They have a lot of tech companies in Mexico. It's a very multicultural. You see a lot of pockets of Europeans that are Mexican nationals that are completely Italian, completely French. I mean, it is a melting pot very similar to the United States now. It's a very modern, upbeat country. Mexico City's a very upbeat, modern country.
And that's what, and Jenny, that's what's, I don't know if you want to say something.
Well, I was just going to refer back to some of the conversations we had last year about immigration, right? So when we were talking about the wall and we were talking about border security, we were all kind of in agreement that there's a border and we need some security. Do we need to militarize it? Well, no, we don't need to militarize it. Do we need a surveillance state at the border? No, we don't need that because, and one of the main reasons is because we have this relationship with Mexico, right? They've got foreign direct investment here, right? And I don't know the extent of it, and I don't know if it's growing. It's something, I mean, I guess had we thought about this last week, we could have looked it up to find out a few more of the facts about it. But,
and vice versa. So Walmart of Mexico is traded on the Mexican Stock Exchange. It's one of the highest trading ones in Mexico. Walmart Corp has invested heavily into Mexico. They bet on Mexico. When Mexico's currency started getting better about 10, 20 years ago and started, I mean, it's not on par with us, but it's shortened the gap like fourfold in the last 20 years. And it's, I mean, the country still has some ways to go. There's still, but so do we. I mean, there's parts of the United States that I know that several agencies have toured, their international agencies, and said, we have some states that have sewage and systems that are more like developing nations. Well, I mean, our infrastructure is greatly suffered.
Well, I think that's the only reason I was bringing that up was because I think that it was so interesting that especially here in North Carolina, we have Congress people, Republican Congress people, who are not taking advantage of a relationship with Mexico and Canada and Central American countries. And our farmers here, agriculture is our #1 trade here in North Carolina. We could actually do very well if we focused on trading to them and establishing, instead of knocking them, trading to them, because we can grow anything in North Carolina except citrus. And they can grow many things, but there's certain, like apples, for example, that climate is not great for apples, but we can grow apples here. And so anyway, there's a lot of trade opportunities. So I just think it's interesting. There may be many people who support Trump that actually work for Mexican companies.
Correct.
And so I think
keep in mind also that I guess he realized when he tried to cover that up and try to ban Mexico importing some of the vegetables, especially the avocados. He understood that was a big loss in our nation.
Don't touch our guacamole.
Do not touch my avocado. I am telling you, Trump supporters right now.
That's treason.
I think he's just learning. I think he's being educated because he didn't know. Because he thought that, oh no, our people, we have to have our own selves internally. And it's not that way, you know.
Well, so I do have 2 buttons, and I forgot to talk about button. Of course, Medicare for All is one of the big issues that I've always I support.
And if you don't know his name,
yes, if you don't know my name, I do support Tera Long, who's running for county commission at large, and also Tom Steyer is my second choice. Behind Bernie Sanders, Tom Steyer, if you're looking for more of a moderate type of person who's running Tom Steyer is a very reasonable, moderate, I think. And so we wanted to talk about. Oh, I forgot. Well, I'll give it to you at the very end.
That's good. This is a good segue.
Sure, go ahead. So we wanted to talk about. I have a shirt for you. Ruth, this is in Spanish. I visited the Tom Steyer.
Oh God, I missed it Saturday. Yes.
So there you go.
Tom, I finally got my shirt. Thank you.
And I was speaking with Jenny before the show that
I love it.
we actually have a mouse in our crawl space that I'm trying to catch.
Oh, Lord.
And I went to Lowe's to buy one of those catch and release because I don't want to kill it. And
It's a mouse.
Yeah, don't kill it.
It has
I'm glad
escaped
it's not
twice.
killing it.
They carry a lot of bacteria and disease.
They do,
So do
and
humans.
apparently this mouse has outsmarted me twice, and it has escaped the catch and release.
Let's call him Chapo. Let's call him Chapo.
So I'm
It's
highly
not
upset.
catch and release, it's catch and eat.
Oh.
I got a recipe for weed wrap that you're just gonna love.
That's great.
Weed wrap.
I do have a gift for
Tera.
Tera, because your daughter likes.
Gorgeous.
And we have one for Mama Ruth.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
You know, Sunday is my birthday, my physical birthday.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. The big birthday bash. So
Thank you.
thank everyone
So
for this. So you have something to say? Yes, Tara has something. Go ahead.
Okay, since we're giving gifts, I went to a bookstore and I walked by this mug and I was like, man, that is the coolest mug ever. And I walked by it and I was like, inside it says fight like a girl. And I was like, I couldn't buy it because I couldn't place it where I wanted it to go. But I went back after Christmas and it was still there waiting on me.
Is that on sale?
It wasn't on sale.
It's not the price, it's the
You're not
detail.
supposed to ask that.
Deep discount.
And then beside it, nevertheless, she persisted.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, Jenny. Woohoo. Go, girl. Go, girl.
Thank you.
So
I'm
Jenny,
touched.
if you don't know her, she fights like a girl, and
Yes.
nevertheless, she persisted.
Woo. Girls power. There you
I
go.
try. That's very flattering.
That is wonderful. Thank you for not getting us anything. But
Sorry.
Well,
I guess we gotta fight
Just
harder.
saying.
I know. So Ruth and I may be going to a Trump event on Friday.
Oh, Lord.
Well, stay tuned next week. We have.
We probably get kicked out.
Yeah, as soon as we walk in, they may kick us out.
They
Well,
probably
we'll find
will.
it.
I mean, to be fair, Christian gets kicked out of a lot of things. I mean,
So we're already used to it.
So you think I should just yell when I walk in? I've been kicked out of better places than this. All right?
I've been thrown
Exactly.
into better
Yeah,
places
exactly.
than this.
Come get you some.
Philip,
Oh,
what
Lord.
do you want to talk about, Jeff? I mean,
Let's talk about. Let's go back.
Talk to us about-
Let's go back to
How
the
was your
state of
trip
the.
to-
Let's go back to the state of the.
How
Union.
was your trip to
I
Washington?
didn't watch it.
how was DC?
Oh, okay. DC. Yeah, I did two things in DC of note. One was I went to the theater.
Yep.
On Friday night, which
You went to the theater, huh?
the theater.
Theater.
Yeah.
And I saw Next to Normal, a revival of a great musical from Broadway from 10 years ago, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
an amazing cast.
Was John
it was-
Boots? So what's his name? Was he there?
Who?
John Wilkes Booth.
No.
He's
It
trying
was,
to make a history.
it was
there.
the Eisenhower
I-
Theater at the
okay.
Kennedy Center, and it was a great theater. It was a great production. I hope they put it on Broadway for a little while again as a revival. But it was a great show. It's a musical, won a Pulitzer Prize. It's about mental illness. I don't want to give away any spoilers about the story
really
because
good.
it's very powerful. There's only 6 cast members and it includes. Did everybody see the Jesus Christ Superstar live broadcast? So the lead actor in that, Dixon, the guy that had come off of Alexander Hamilton as playing the role of Aaron Burr in Hamilton, also played Judas in that production. He was an amazing singer, amazing presence. It was a very flawless performance, just an all-star cast.
The one you saw over the weekend, also the original director
And the original director, yes.
Yeah, I came back to do this one.
That's
as well,
right. Yeah,
Wow.
he did. So
Which is
so
powerful.
it was a very special performance.
And you took your daughter there?
I took my daughter
Oh, great,
and
great.
a friend of mine who lives there in DC.
Excellent.
So it was very good. So
Did you
then
see Trump?
he was sitting 2 rows down
Oh,
from
was
me.
he?
Yeah.
And was
His-
John
his
Wilkes
orange
Booth
hair. Yeah. No.
No one gets my joke.
The other thing I did was I attended the National Press Club meeting sponsored by the Courage Foundation. They're sponsoring different events around the country with different scholars and think tank people and attorneys for Julian Assange and the implication of the case against Julian Assange and the First Amendment implication. So as former head of the ACLU, Jamil Jaffer and Edward Snowden's lawyer, Ben Weisner, and I'm forgetting Rosemary I think it's Papa George from UNC Chapel Hill. And then I'm trying to remember, Jeffers I think is her name, and I can't remember. She's former DOJ attorney. Anyway, it was about an hour-long panel, and it was pretty interesting. And it's available on their website, the streaming, if you want to see what they are saying about this case. And Julian Assange's American attorney was there, and I did meet him and met the head of the foundation. And and I spoke to all the panelists individually after, and I hope that Mary Rose, did I call her Mary Ann? I think her name is Mary Rose. I'm hoping that she'll come to a libertarian event because she's very much libertarian in her orientation about the First Amendment.
Wow,
Cool.
you did a lot.
Yeah.
I had a really intense weekend.
I watched the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I watched J-Lo and Shakira,
Oh, that was
and
awesome.
I loved it.
Do we want to talk about the halftime show?
Yeah, let's
I loved
You
it.
want to talk about that?
I
love
I mean,
Shake that booty. We
Did
Latinos.
they even have a football game? I mean, that's freaking. Because we were at the Sideline Sports Bar, which is a gay sports bar here in
And
Charlotte,
we
North
won
Carolina.
the chili contest.
Did y'all?
That's what I'm about to say. So we were one of the winners. We won the best spicy chili, and it was vegan.
And it was vegan.
Oh my
And
God.
people could not tell that it was vegan.
That's
Like
right.
they were saying, "This is an
Awesome.
awesome chili," and I go, "It's vegan." They're like, "You should have seen the
Are
look
you
on their
sure?
face, like they
Are
were."
you sure?
I was like, and I'm going, and they were blown away. So
Yeah.
Christian and I bought the ingredients on Sunday and cooked it, and
Y'all did
and
it?
That's
oh yeah, we
fantastic.
whipsawed it.
Congratulations.
And,
In
we
the
killed
Instant
it.
Anybody who wins a cooking contest
It's
is
the big
a friend of
winner.
mine.
I was
Yes.
very impressed because there were at least 13 entries.
Well, I do
Wow.
consider a chefy family.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
so
that's
I mean
right,
that does
yeah.
make
It was
a
very
difference.
good. But anyway,
Yeah.
halftime show. So did you?
The halftime show was
I liked it.
amazing.
I
I mean,
really liked
it
it.
lit that bar up because
Yeah.
I mean, people were cheering
Yeah.
for the game.
Yeah.
And then
But,
J-Lo.
but then J-Lo and Shakira got on that stage, and you got a 43-year-old. Actually, that was Shakira's birthday that day.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just turned 43, and then you got J-Lo at friggin' 50.
And she celebrated.
So what was
And
the-
lit up the stage.
I guess I
mean,
don't. I
yeah.
guess I don't understand because I don't know anybody. I don't understand what the controversy was.
They said it was
I mean, there's always
over-sexualized.
controversy.
And that they were in skimpy outfits. But the year before, when Adam Levine in Maroon 5
Exactly.
was there,
Girls
he
were
was
melting
shirtless.
down.
He was shirtless.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That he was, and they've always had it's a show. It's
They try to
I-
be sexy, and they are. So
No,
what's
they're-
the big deal?
they're-
You
the
know?
whole
No,
point
no,
of
no, no, no. Wait a
watching-
minute. They're not trying to be sexy.
They are
They're
sexy.
actually, and they're taking advantage of their sexiness.
And the whole
Cover
point.
the eyes of your children. Oh my goodness.
the whole
Wow, I
point
was
of-
cheering up with my boys.
I mean,
Oh.
that's the
like
whole
it, yeah.
point of them
Yeah.
learning dance moves,
Yeah.
and I think people get confused between sensuality
Yeah.
and raw sexuality.
Correct.
They were sensual. They were beautiful.
Mhm.
Their dance moves were on point. The athleticism with J-Lo, you could see the guns on her arms. I mean, she's
Mhm.
friggin' in shape. I mean, of cour's she's
Yeah.
probably never been out of
Tara,
shape.
what did you think
her
about
whole life.
Did you watch it?
I thought it was amazing, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a gay bar,
Yeah.
right? And I was there with them,
Yes.
and Michael was there as well. But I was astounded that the gay men were all over this.
I think it was. I think it's always exciting. Just to see women have such a stage like that.
Correct.
And then B, I think it was just exciting just to see just good entertainment. And so for me, it was more, I think people were clapping because it was just like, wow, this is great. You know,
it was the highest
It
paid.
was certain moves,
And
though,
watch.
that got more claps.
Yes.
Pepsi did good. Pepsi, I mean, I don't like Pepsi. But
yeah, I'm a
it did
Coke
good.
Zero kind of guy. But anyway, you didn't watch any of it, right?
No, I did.
Oh, you did, okay.
So I was driving back from D.C. and I stopped at my sister's place. She lives in Apex.
Okay, yeah.
She lives in Apex. And we got there right before the halftime show. So we watched the halftime show with all the, nachos and stuff. And it was great. So we left right after.
You mean nachos?
Nacho cheese.
That's exactly what I thought. Nachos means.
Is it nachos or nacho cheese?
Nachos.
Right.
Because nachos are the booty cheese.
Yes.
Okay.
So you are.
I like. We
Circling the drain
we
this
literally
morning.
saw the halftime show, and as soon as the halftime show was over, we said, "Okay, time to hit the road."
Game sucks.
So one of my favorite parts of the evening was seeing Jenny and I were standing outside, and Cano comes running outside and says, "Girls, J-Lo's on!"
Tara, I did not say it like that.
Yeah, it was actually more dramatic.
I said,
It was.
anyone who knows me knows that I said it. Girls! That's actually how I said it.
I was trying to be nice. You added yourself. You added your tone on
She
yourself.
was being nice to you. Come on.
She was
I went,
trying to
girls, that's J-Lo.
He did the whole whip snap and the booty pop too. Probably we just did see his booty. You're like,
Did you change your nachos?
I mean,
If I had nachos, I would have.
But,
All right.
but what a powerful moment for the fact that
Yeah.
not only were they women, but Latinx women.
Yes, exactly.
And their central message about humanity is humanity, and don't
Yes.
put fucking kids in a
I
cage.
loved her
And-
performance
and,
about that. Yes.
oh,
the
you know,
cages.
If you lost, I mean, and I think that's why a lot of the more conservative people are making the sexuality a big deal. When they know the central message was
They just want to
powerful
disguise it.
and was in your face, fuck Trump, and earmuffs, and you know,
Child
and
Protective
I
Services.
love. I'm sure this baby
Child
has heard
abuse.
a lot worse than me. Grandma has probably got English, Spanish, and Spanglish cuss words to go in there.
A mix of everything.
This baby is going to be one tough, powerful advocate someday.
All right, well,
about
listen.
16 years.
We need to thank some of the people that are watching us.
You know what's the sad part of it
Yeah.
is that a lot of our white Anglo racist people got upset about it. But it's sad for them not to understand the wordings. The wordings meant a lot. You might just see I read a comment of a American lady. She said, I probably don't speak the language, but I could feel it and I understood part of it. And that was amazing because, I mean, when you put your mind into it, you'll understand the real meaning of it. It was not just the booty shaking and all that. I mean, it meant a lot.
And J-Lo is an incredible businesswoman and a huge brand. And a lot of people that I follow fashion, obviously.
Yeah.
And she has been an inspiration for women and for all identities. And she's a huge supporter of the LGBT community, so is
Correct.
Shakira. And, you know, sometimes when people criticize sexuality, when they, you know, marginalize LGBT people, and then you see somebody like that up on stage, it's inspirational. I think that's why there were so many cheers in that gay bar, because they're like, when you're visibly different, and you see somebody up there visibly different, rocking it out on one of the biggest stages that a performer could ever be on.
And don't give up.
Over 1 billion people watch the Super Bowl every year worldwide. I think it's amazing. I think it's empowering, and I think the Super Bowl and the NFL needs to do more of that, you know, and not just putting old white rockers up there, and put different identities up there and let them rock it out.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
not only
fellas,
white
yeah.
rockers, because I mean we've had Beyonce, we've
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
other
A lot of
colored
really-
artists, and they've done amazing.
Yeah.
Gloria Estefan was one of the
Oh, I
performers as
remember that. That
well.
was way back.
Michael
did a
Jordan,
great
Michael Jordan, Michael
Michael
Jackson,
Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Prince. So we've had
Prince.
great celebrations, and I think they're just doing a game changer. They
Yeah.
realize that we are impacting in a different way, and diversity has to be included. That's the
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. It's part of the sport.
Well, so we didn't want to talk about the Super Bowl or the State of the Union. What else do we not want to talk about?
Well, we didn't cover Iowa.
Oh,
Iowa,
yes. So we
we
want to
haven't-
thank our viewers that are watching us.
Yes.
Philip from Texas, Johanna
I feel like
is watching us. Tera Long.
Judy's watching us. Hey,
Did you know Tara's
Cano, thank you for
watching us?
watching.
Watching us?
Alicia,
I
thank you
haven't
for
seen her in a
watching.
while.
In
Yes.
2 places at the same time. Amazing.
I am watching you. See,
It's-
if you ever see me on my
Yes.
phone, it's because I'm text messaging.
So
the
am I.
viewers.
So am I. I was at a
We're all
clinic
connected.
last week. My husband, as you
Yeah,
know,
a week ago.
got a surgery thing done by going to the barber shop. So be careful, y'all.
What happened?
He had ingrown hair,
Oh.
and it infected, and we didn't know for
Oh,
the
no.
last 2 months,
Yeah.
and it got into a big old lump. So when he showed up, he went to emergency. They didn't know what to do. He went to his regular doctor. She didn't know what to
You had
do.
a keloid?
I went to a dermatologist,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they numb it,
Yeah.
cut it, and drained it, and hopefully he got
I know
3
exactly what
stitches.
you're talking about. Yeah.
And it was awful. But I wasn't able to be here, but I watched the show. I
Mhm.
think that show was amazing. I
It
missed
was
it.
good.
I hope to have Mr.
Kirby.
No, not Kirby.
Rivette.
Richard Rivette.
Richard.
Yeah,
Was on, yeah.
Come back and meet him here.
Yeah, I saw that show again last night. I thought it was really
Yeah,
good.
that was really good.
It got pretty intense for a while there, but I thought it was really good. Listen, why don't we
It
talk?
got intense because Joe Ford was
Joe Ford, yeah,
commenting.
Senator Joe Ford. Was
He needs to
actually
come
watching
to
us.
the show.
Exactly. Does anyone want to talk about anything else?
Well, I mean, I think we do need to cover Iowa. I mean, I think it would be remiss.
Oh,
Oh,
that's what we're gonna
yes,
talk
that's
about.
an excellent topic. Yes.
I mean the whole drama, I guess.
Why
of-
do they
of
make
the
that
state
such a
of-
big deal? That's something that I don't really understand. So
Bernie
please,
got
guys, educate me.
Okay, so what do you want to know about? I mean, the
Why is
the
it
DNC,
so much big deal about the Iowa caucus, political caucus, endorsing and voting for their highest or number one president candidate?
That's fine. It's just the problem is the technology of counting
Okay.
and what was provided by the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
And the DNC screwed up royally.
Mm-hmm.
And they screwed up on technical grounds, and they screwed up in their backup plan. And the question is, how does an organization with that much money and that much experience and that much desire to have transparency in their process, how do they screw up that bad, right? And so that's still a mystery.
So how do they end up having Pete as number one?
Well, Pete, just because Pete said it's, Pete just jumped in front of the parade. That's what he did.
Oh.
He just jumped in front of the parade and said he
wants to be the president.
The numbers look good enough for me, right? So I'm just gonna go out and declare victory.
That's not completely true, though. I mean, and that happens a lot in a lot of these primaries, where when you get a certain percentage of votes in, and it's pretty obvious that you're going to win, a lot of people will jump in and say, "I know I'm going to finish at least number 2, if not number 1. For me, it's a win because I am a second-tier candidate."
Right.
And I don't think he did anything that we haven't ever seen before,
That's
both
true.
on both sides of the aisle. I completely disagree. The second thing is, technology things do happen. I mean, they happened in our last general election for 2016. Hanging chads, and I think it's going to always happen because technology can go down. We've had it happen on the show. I mean, there's not going to be a perfect system. It was the first primary of the year.
Now I do like Joe Biden being the last on their accounts.
Yeah, came in fourth.
He came out fourth
And-
or
and-
fifth.
And Pete's from that area. I mean, he is.
Oh,
he-
okay.
I mean, that he's a Midwestern candidate.
Gotcha.
He's a well-known candidate in a region. Iowa, even their progressives tend to vote fairly moderately. They're going to vote for somebody that they consider. I mean, you think about Bernie. Bernie's from the Northeast. Most of his competition was from other areas, and a lot of times you see people vote for regional favorites, and so I think he's a very much an Iowa, made for Iowa type candidate, living in that area. And
He should become their governor or something in that state, you know.
Well, I'd like to be the governor of Missouri. I would change that place around fast. But I mean, Missouri and Iowa are a lot alike. I lived in Missouri for 12 years.
He's from Indiana?
Yeah, he's from Indiana,
okay.
but which is really, really close, and especially where he lived. Or where he does live, is very, very close. And
South Bend.
And yeah, South Bend. And the Midwest is very, very different than other parts of the United States in their mentality after living in the Mid-South or Midwest for 12 years and being in the tourism industry.
Well,
so,
I think it was...
I was not surprised they won.
Oh, I think it was I agree with you. I mean, I think that our Democratic Party did a terrible job of preparing for that. I mean, you have one job to do, and that's the Iowa caucus.
That's right.
And that's really your only job to do, and you screw it up. So I do think that they have to say, hey, we did not do well. But I also think, secondly, to Julian Castro's and all of the other candidates.
Ted Cruz?
Well, not Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz. I do think that this highlighted, and I hope this is the end of the Iowa caucus being the first election for the Democratic Party. It does not represent our party. It is, and so I do think that I hope that this highlighted the fact that it doesn't represent our party. And so maybe the first election should be Nevada, South Carolina, more diverse states. You know,
or more than one state.
Yeah, more than one state.
That's what I was going to say, more than one.
Maybe pick one from every major region of the country. You know,
and
like
it was just
Oregon and this
and
that.
And it is just 41 delegates out of 3,000 delegates you have to have. So you know, the good old days, I guess, of the Iowa caucus being so important, all that money being spent just to get 3,000 votes. You know, I hope they're going to be looking at that. But the important thing, and that's what I think, to your point, Jenny, I don't know if you said that or not, but the two top vote getters, and looks like Pete Buttigieg got probably the most delegates, and then right behind him, like by 1%, is Bernie Sanders, and then third was Elizabeth Warren. So your top three people were not establishment people, and that's so I think it showed even within the Democratic Party. They don't want establishment people. They don't want Bidens. They don't want Hillary Clinton type of people.
So talk about the polls. Talk about who's in lead in general, not just at the caucus, but who's in lead in general.
Well, I mean, it's flip-flopped a lot, and I think it depends on which part of the country you poll in. You know, Bernie's been at the top. I mean, Elizabeth is surged the last 6 months of last year and going into this year.
Biden says he's number one.
And Biden believes he's number one, you know.
Based on what, though?
And polling numbers, and I think, and I'm not 100% sure Biden even knows which state he is in at any one time. I mean, Uncle Joe, I think it's time to hang up. But I truly do believe that. I mean, it's so freaking early in this thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's really early.
This is a marathon, not a sprint.
But I do think it was very interesting to get back to the Super Bowl. I thought it was very funny because we just have not talked about Donald Trump enough today. I did think it was hilarious.
Do you really want to talk about him?
I just thought it was hilarious that after Kansas City won the Super Bowl, he tweeted, he tweeted Kansas City.
What a great state!
What a great state! And
you represent it.
And so apparently he didn't know that Kansas City Chiefs play in Missouri. But it's just so. It's just funny because
Kansas City sits on the state line, so about half of the city is in Kansas and about half is in Missouri, and it's fascinating because fans come from both sides of the both states and in that greater regional area, and it's just hilarious.
Then he retracted, so
he did
right away.
He did delete the tweet and then repost the exact same thing with Missouri instead. But I think it just shows how it's just funny. It's just
No, it's not funny. It shows his reality. He doesn't know what he's doing.
It's
just scary.
It's just exhausting watching him because every single day it's just something so it's like silly or. Just,
he hasn't done anything this morning after he did off his show last night.
Well, he's waiting to get voted at. The impeachment thing is today. But
you know, what do you think about that? That's something that I'm also kind of curious about. By not allowing any witnesses, by not giving us the people the opportunity to show and demonstrate the truth. I think that he's just gonna be free of everything, like nothing. And if he does, I'm raising up, and I want Chapo out also.
Ruth, were there witnesses in the house?
I don't think so.
Yeah, there were 17 witnesses.
There were 17? Oh my God.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that still wasn't the trial, though. I mean, what it was, the
That was the
witnesses
investigation.
in the
That was
house,
just
the
under.
investigation.
Yeah, that was under the investigation. not
So,
being.
I mean, it was basically the indictment part of the process, and they should have been recalled for the trial. I mean,
I think they're gonna wash it off. They're just gonna say, "Oh no,
well,
the country's doing good."
they'll acquit him. But the reality is he will always have been impeached.
Right.
So regardless of what happens, he will always be impeached. Plus, I think that the American
Is that like always being indicted if you're a criminal, or always being charged if you're a crook?
Yeah, I guess so.
You,
I understand what you're saying.
You were charged with something.
I understand what you're saying.
And that carries your entire life.
Yeah,
it
you're
depends.
gonna
isn't
wear
it?
the scarlet letter your whole life because you were charged with a crime.
Well, it depends, right? Because felonies do carry their entire life. That's my understanding.
Well,
And-
charges.
Yeah.
Well, they're
Charges that are where you're acquitted in a court. You go to the court before the judge, and they make a
What you're saying is you don't. What you're
there's a
saying is you don't
decision.
think it's fair that he has to live with the impeachment.
No, because I know people who've been charged with crimes,
Yeah.
and I think it would be grotesquely unfair for them to, fill out a job application that says, yes, I've been charged with crimes.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference too. If you, depending on the entity, if you have an arrest record, arrests still can show up in the system. I mean, that you were picked up. So you're actually incorrect in that, because if somebody does do a background check, they can see that somebody's been arrested. Those things that even if they get deferred adjudication or nolo contendere, it still can show up on your record until it gets expunged.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand the premise of what you're saying.
You might get it expunged.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's gonna be there forever. Whether
you can get expunged, and that's it.
Well, to the extent that we live in a surveillance state and all records are there and all records are public, you're right. Everybody's going to say Trump is impeached. So I don't disagree with that, and I don't want to defend Trump for anything he's done. Okay.
But you just don't agree with the impeachment. I know.
Well, I don't have a dog in the fight.
Gotcha.
I do not have a dog in the fight between the Democrats and Republicans, between the RNC and the DNC. They're both.
But 72% of Americans,
both
including Republicans, wanted witnesses.
Correct.
So I do think, regardless of what
ask the
happens,
House managers.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you.
To have witnesses, that you don't bring surprise witnesses in. People, you have to go through to bring witnesses in. It's a whole process. You have to depose them.
Yeah.
So there'll be months of depositions.
Oh, I don't think
you don't bring in witnesses to tell you things that are going to surprise everybody. The whole point of a trial is that they depose people, then they bring them up. Okay.
But I mean, with Iran-Contra, for example, which wasn't an impeachment deal.
Iran-Contra? How did we get on that?
Well, I mean, I'm just drawing up, recent presidents in the last 40 years that have gone through this type of process. And then with Clinton's deal, on his impeachment deal, they pulled up witnesses, they interviewed people, because until you get them under oath and until you get them in front of a camera, you may or may not get the answers you want, but at least it's part of the process. I mean, when something warrants an investigation, especially in a political arena, I think we always deserve the truth, and I think it puts people in a light that could have easily backfired on the Democrats had the Senate had witnesses up there. They may have exonerated him too.
Well,
it's a gamble to get witnesses up there.
And I think
witnesses don't always go the way you want them to.
No,
ask any attorney.
That's why you depose them first, right?
Well,
so you know.
But you're still going to get questions in a trial that you won't get in a deposition.
Well, hey, Lynn, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Lynn. And that's why I think, regardless of what happens, I think everyone knew he was going to be acquitted. He was not going to be removed. I think everyone knew that. But I do think that it allowed the American public, and especially those who were watching it, because it was on like a soap opera, you know, I do think that it allowed people to watch it and to see what a dick he is. I mean, I've been saying that for a while. No, really, I mean,
even though he's not getting thrown out, we
were
still
able
know
to
who he
see,
is.
because there's no one else in America that could screw up and do the things that he has done in a job and keep their job. And so I think most people who are working every day, who have everyday lives, God, can you imagine if we had done just a little bit of that in our jobs?
But I'm going to say, though, and I'm not defending Trump, but with a lot of presidents, we've had very ill behavior by previous presidents. We had W. and Cheney blowing up half the world, it seemed like. We had Clinton with the whole, Monica Lewinsky thing. And I mean, if Bill had been not the president of the United States, but the president of Microsoft, and that had happened,
yes,
the board of directors would have fired him.
No, I agree.
I
agree.
So I don't think presidential rules and CEO rules are the same, because you have the general public that voted the president in,
Now, who
and
makes
you have
those
the
rules?
obligation to. I mean, the president does need to be insulated a little bit. And what I mean by this, I don't think we want the whim of the people just to pull a president out. Otherwise, you're going to have that turbulence. We do need some sort of reasonable, vetted stability. That's why we have a House and a Senate. That's why we have a Supreme Court, is balances and checks. And I don't want to see a president just, 70% want him out, and then we just jerk him out of the office, or she out of the office. I don't want to see that either, because then you start getting, that's a slippery slope.
That's what's going on in other countries, and it's kind of scary.
I'm disappointed the Senate did not allow witnesses, but at the same time, that is the process. The process went the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so regardless of what you're right. The process went the way it was supposed to. Quite honestly, I believe that he got exactly what he asked for. He pushed the envelope to the point where he basically was saying, impeach me, what are you going to do? So they impeached him. So it wouldn't have happened had he had just been a little bit of just a slight bit of humble. And still to this day, I think this really highlights just what I said earlier, is he hasn't even said, if I did something wrong, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yep.
And I think most rational adults, we expect that from children.
Yeah.
And he is acting less than what we expect from a child.
Well, I disagree with that, because I think these phony apologies are worse than just saying,
they sound
I did
very
it and I'm going to move on.
That's not how Trump is made up, though, too.
Well,
truthfully, let's think about it. I mean, between the Billy Bush thing and the Trump University, has this guy ever admitted to anything or even done accountability to himself? But I don't think that's his style. I mean, I'm not defending it, but
that's not his.
You're expecting a leopard to erase their spots, and he is who he is.
That's right.
I was just going to say, president of the United States.
Yeah, I was just going to say, remember, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't support him. However, based on the impeachment, based on his State of the Union, based on the economy, and based on what just happened in Iowa, my prediction has not changed. I believe he's going to win by a landslide.
I think he's going to win again.
Oh, I don't think so. I think, well, we'll never know until it actually happens. But I won't
be voting for him. I won't be supporting him.
I won't
but I
be
believe
voting,
he's going to win by a landslide.
I do think that people are just exhausted with Trump.
Yeah.
And Republicans and even those who may like him, regardless of how they defend him, it's just exhausting. It's like having an employee that is so exhausting. You're like, okay, listen.
Like Adam Schiff.
Well, it's just exhausting. I mean, I think everyone just wants some normalcy back in the president.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's super cool about Charlotte right now is I'm literally in and out of about 50 groups a month. And a lot of these groups sprung up as a result of Trump being elected.
No, I've said that before. Trump has done, and I've said that to my friends here in our neighborhood. one of the things that Trump has done, Trump has single-handedly
mobilized
the
Democrats.
Actually,
women,
women is up. Yeah, that's
women,
an awakening.
LGBT.
the Latinx community in Charlotte. I mean, he has single-handedly motivated a lot of people.
See,
who
what are
were
we
not.
doing now? I mean, that's the
Yeah.
question. I mean, it's good. I mean, we got up, we raised, we are unifying, but now what's our next step? What are we doing?
Well,
so
that's
we can
why-
be able to
that's-
bring that
yeah.
change.
I ran for office.
Yeah,
So-
that's good. And
that's great.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are running for office or have run
Correct.
for
A
office.
lot of things statewide
Yeah.
have been born out of this too, like the Lillian's list.
Lillian's list.
Oh, yeah.
campaign, and there's so. I'm gonna say this, and I mean this with all sincerity. I think Trump was what was needed in this country. In the fact
to check us.
to have real legit democracy,
Mhm.
you have to test the system.
Correct.
Yeah.
You cannot find. I think he's going to be a part of history. I think it's going to be maybe a shameful part of our history. But at the same time, we can't have an Obama every time.
Yeah.
We're not going to have a Reagan every time. We're not going to have those iconic presidents. Whether we agree with them or not, I thought Reagan was a horrible human being. But he was an iconic president. He came along in a period of time when we wanted inspiration. Reagan did do that. He did inspire this country. And, Mr. Gorbachev tear down that wall type thing. And I think Trump, in that way, is that he showed that we still have a lot of white supremacists in this country, and we still have a misogynist mentality in this country. It's part of democracy.
I just think
Your team doesn't get to win every time.
I just think that there is something, and I know that they won't admit it, but I do think that there is something seriously wrong with the Republican Party, especially, and I said this kind of on the last week's show, like middle-aged white men who they are so in need of a hero that Trump is their hero.
Correct.
And I've never seen
They're
middle-aged
blind.
white men so obsessed with it's not their wives they're obsessed with, or their kids they're obsessed with, or their own successes. They're so obsessed with Trump. And I think that really highlights how sad their life is, that is their hero.
He's the last Rat Pack.
Yeah, I
president
mean,
we'll
it is.
ever have.
It is. And I see. And I see.
But seeing it that way, I do agree with them in one thing.
Sure.
They like to cheer up, and even though they understand they're wrong, that he's wrong, that he's a crook, they still support him. They still cover, protect him, and will not speak anything wrong.
They won't. They will talk about how
That's
terrible.
being worse than Muslims.
They will,
I mean,
they will talk about how terrible it is that Nancy Pelosi ripped up the thing, but they won't say a word that he spent $3 million on a Super Bowl party. And so it is kind of interesting.
Like they see what we
people
do wrong
people
as
that
Democrats.
people that we support, like Matthew Ridenhour, like some of the other people that we support, they're posting this obsession with Trump on a daily basis. And for me, it's almost like, my goodness gracious, is that
You know what? You gotta take things from who
But
it
to be
comes
fair,
from.
though, if you're a conservative in the United States,
and that's
he's
your
your
hero.
guy. Just like Obama was, we were obsessed with Obama.
I was
and the
never
progressive-
obsessed with.
Well, I mean,
No.
but in general, to be fair, I know that I talk about Obama a lot, and he's been out of office almost 4 years. And we pine for the days of seeing Michelle and Barack in office, and it as a progressive, and to be fair, we had hero worship with Obama too. Trump is a symptom of a changing the guard too. I think you see these baby boomers and even Gen X to a certain point that are seeing the United States become way more multicultural.
And it
We
scares
see-
them.
It does, because they're clutching their pearls. They're going, well, these kind of people, they may want to take my guns, with the guns and stuff. And, they're seeing white males reign over this country coming to a close.
Yes.
Talking about guns.
The next generation is blacker and browner and gayer.
And womaner.
Yes.
And more female dominant. And we're seeing women in politics and national politics for the first time.
We need younger.
So you want to say something, because we're about to run out of time.
Yeah, we're about to
here.
close and wrap up, but I'm talking about guns. Did anyone heard about what happened yesterday in Valentine?
Yes, they tried to carjack a lady
lady
in the husband.
And the neighbors.
Yeah.
The neighbors came out with guns and shot the intruder. That's something important because yes, we want protections, we want security, we want to make sure that we have a gun reform, like making sure that whoever owns a gun is responsible enough to protect the right way. But in these situations, crime is elevating, crime is outgrowing right now in our city, and I think that was very, very good for the neighbor to protect his own neighbors around. I remember that brought me back when I was young. But then at the same time, we don't want all these racist people just come out, and if they start seeing a Hispanic or a black person out in the street and they think that maybe the guy is trying to fix his car and he's not trying to steal it, and just shoot him. So something that we have to kind of balance it out up there, I guess.
Well, I think that I really would like Jeff, we need your help.
Yeah, because what do you think?
Jeff, I really would like middle-aged white men to find better heroes.
Did I ever say anything positive about Trump?
Not you. I'm talking about in general.
In
I
general.
mean, the people that follow Trump, the really Trump fanatic supporters that we see,
That I
are
don't
middle-aged.
that
That
hang out with.
believe
you don't hang out with-
believe that it's right to have their gun.
This, and it's almost like I want to say
Many of the let me say
maybe
something,
like
okay?
Spider-Man.
So
or,
some of them are making
Just-
some of them are making a relative calculation, and they're not making an absolute calculation. They're just saying Nancy Pelosi scares me, Pete Buttigieg scares me, Bernie Sanders socialism scares me. All of that stuff that they're doing really scares me a lot more than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Donald Trump at least said that we should do business with Russia during the primary. He's been saying the same thing since 1985.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And so
he has not changed
that is a very strong peace message when Hillary was saying Putin is Hitler.
Well, I don't think I
now what has transpired we can quibble about, and I'm sure we will, because he's left this anti-war movement in quite disarray. But again, they're just making this relative calculation that they don't want Medicare for all, socialized medicine. They don't want their ability to protect themselves taken away.
Yeah.
And they're very concerned about free speech and conservative viewpoints and religious, what so-called religious conscience, freedom of conscience.
I just never thought I would live to see the day that they would be such wussies. I mean,
with regard to what?
That all these these like Nancy Pelosi would scare them. Donald Trump doesn't scare me. I'm not afraid of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is Donald Trump. But I have better heroes than a politician.
Nacho Libre!
But the point I'm making is that they're making I know people in the Republican Party locally who tell me they voted for Gary Johnson in 2016.
Right.
And Bill Weld, a guy who endorsed me when he was Libertarian presidential candidate, he is trying to run against Trump in the primary. I mean, he was in the Iowa primary too.
Wow.
Right?
Well,
on the Republican side, so you can see pictures of a very civilized crowd.
I know that this is a time period that it seems like it's very challenging for all of us, but I just really would like our country. I think we probably talk about this all the time. I really would like our country to have heroes that are more have substance.
Well, I know we're out of time, but and I know we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
But I will say,
I
don't think that they see him as a hero. I do disagree with you there, Christian. I think that it's their guy. He has had a measure of success. Whether we agree with it or not, what we consider success.
Sure.
But he has put forth an agenda. He has put forth a plan. And he's the current sitting president. And just as we defended Obama and Clinton before him, and as people defended Cheney, Bush, and Papa Bush, I think it's when it's your guy in there. Just like Sunday when we were watching, the football game, and certain people were cheering for KC, and certain people were cheering for San Fran. I think it's when your guy is scoring the touchdown, the other side's gonna go, you know, I don't want to hear their cheers. And I think they deserve their time in the sun, you know, because it's about to close on them. I think, the sun is setting.
That is what but Jenny, that's my fear. My fear is, this is what really makes me a little nervous. Is a lot of these really radical Trump supporters are so. He's like, their whole self-worth seems to be measured by him. That when he falls,
but we had the same.
But you live in a different world than me. I've never thought Obama was the bomb.
Look, there's all kinds of political cults that arise around leaders.
But I think we have to differentiate our personal opinion, and our personal worldview versus the general public. The rank and file person that voted for Trump, you know, voted for him because of a brand, a simple brand, Make America Great Again. Yeah, and we saw that with Richard last week with his hat. And it's just like with Reagan or any other successful candidate that won the presidency, is they have a very central message. You know, Clinton was, "I feel your pain." You know, it's the economy stupid. You know, and so everybody, they invest into this person. I don't know if there's so much it's hero worship, is that I think when you vote for somebody and that person is successful and wins, I do believe that there is an investment into that narrative.
So people want to vote for people they think that can win.
So they're representative of who they are.
Well, the fact that they support a winner, right? They want to support a winner.
But it's who they are.
They have the right. Everyone has the right to cheer up for their own person.
That's what I'm saying.
I think we're just looking the bright side every time we hear something about Trump, and we feel discomfort because we don't agree with his stuff. And I do agree with you, Jenny, because that is right. I mean, I wish San Francisco would have won another bowl. They didn't. And tough. I just got entertained with J-Lo, and I'm still taking Shakira in my heart for the rest of my life.
I don't even remember the game. I just remember.
Well, on that note, I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to close the show, because we did start a little later. Just want to remind everyone that as soon as we finish here, which is just in a couple of minutes, Wired and Tired is going to be on. I don't know what they're going to be really tired.
I'm definitely wired.
They're going to be really tired.
I need to wire up here.
We'll get you an IV. Stat.
So what I hope is that we have a great primary, that everyone please get out to vote, regardless of who you vote for, whether you are voting for whoever, just vote. Because I think that the more people vote, the more confident we are about democracy.
Yes.
And so
I disagree, but whatever.
Read your constitutions.
We didn't pick a constitution.
No, we didn't.
Okay, all right. So tell us where you're going to be. Thank you for putting up with us for this hour. Next week will be the last show before the primary starts. So we will probably, I will say who I'm endorsing for president.
Are we having any more candidates on? Any more candidates scheduled to show up? And
we were supposed to, but
they don't. Tera.
Jeff,
Jeff,
did we ever plan anything in advance? I mean, we were planning this show even last night.
That's right.
I mean, come on.
So,
it's us.
No, we should have Reverend Ray. Also,
we've tried to have Reverend McKinney on here several times. Unfortunately, at his church, his staff meeting is right during this show because we've asked him.
I know Lofton wants to come on too. I saw.
All
right. And he was at the Women's March and he asked to come on.
Oh, that's great.
So we do need to reach out to him, and that's probably my bad too, because I kind of blanked because I have memory.
I'll text him if you don't.
But we do need to wrap up. So I'm going
I
to
need
say
to get Dimple here. Dimple is running for
treasurer.
Yes. For the state, so we need to have her here.
I am going to begin the wrap-up process. I am going to be at the National Organization of Women's meeting tonight, our general meeting, our first one of the years tonight. And then I'm going to my party this weekend, which is called Purgatory at Amos South End. Ooh. So I'm wearing this outfit and a little bit different outfit for that deal, but I will be wearing this tonight as well.
Purple.
So yeah, it's my typical clothing, vinyl and latex. So have fun. Enjoy your Wednesday.
Woohoo! I will be with Kristen Cano on Friday. We'll be sneak peeking into President Trump speech here in Charlotte. Other than that, I spend the rest of my days with this beautiful model, soon to be our next activist.
Yay. Jeff.
I'm going to try to see a production. I am going to see a production of Fences, a play by August Wilson, and it's at BNS. It's at Duke Energy Theater this Thursday. If you see me there, wave. It should be great. If you have a chance to see the movie with Denzel Washington and other great cast, you can see it.
Miss Tara.
I'm going to be with Jenny at the Now meeting, so please join us. And thank you, Christian, for allowing us this opportunity.
Well, yes, I will be, for those who want to know, this Saturday is HJ on K. It's the annual march started by the NAACP and also the Moral Monday movement. I will be in Raleigh on Saturday morning marching with someone. So for those who just say hi.
And let's not forget about this
yes.
month. It's our Black History
Exactly.
month. Remember, let's educate. I really love your post yesterday about the woman's, your comments about the women's being elected to vote or allowing them to vote, especially color people. So, see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.